My name is Kara Nolan, and I'm 33 years old. On most days, I can fix a network in half the time the ticketing system believes in, and I make lists for fun. I know which store restocks juice boxes on Tuesdays and which brand of trash bags doesn't rip when you look at them wrong. My son, Leo, is 10, loves Lego, hates olives, and thinks I'm a wizard because I can untangle cords without swearing. The Saturday of his birthday smelled like sunscreen and charcoal. Our entire neighborhood a low simmer of summer. Blue streamers fluttered against a fence I'd scrubbed the night before. A Costco sheet cake on the table read, Leo, level 10 in pixel font, as if his life were a game he kept winning. I'd rented one of those inflatable soccer goals and lined the porch rail with little water bottles like a tiny parade. I borrowed folding chairs from a neighbor who waved across the street and promised to send over an extra cooler just in case we go big. His 6 classmates came in a whirl of sneakers and sunscreen. The backyard took on that bright, tinny sound kids make when joy rebounds between them, like coins clinking in a jar you forgot you owned. I checked my phone out of habit. Then again, not out of habit. Mom had said, "We'll be there, wouldn't miss it." Courtney, my sister, had promised party favors. Nate, my brother, after the gym. I told myself 20 minutes late is just fashionable. 40 is a misunderstanding. An hour is traffic plus 1 flat tire. I lined up the water bottles, taped a trash bag to the fence so the yard wouldn't end the day looking like a landfill, and kept reopening the family chat to the same gray silence. When the pizza arrived, I asked the driver to wait a beat, like a stage manager stalling for the late headliner. He glanced past me at the small, perfect chaos of 6 kids and said, "You're good." I smiled like my mouth had never learned any other shape. At 3:11 p.m., my phone buzzed. A message from my mother. "Don't be dramatic, it's just a kid's party." I read it twice because the first time my brain bucked. Not running late, not got stuck, not even happy birthday, baby. Just that line, flat as a lid closing. The screen door squeaked. Leo jogged over, cheeks hot, hair pasted to his forehead. "Mom, can we cut the cake? Can we sing?" "Of course," I said. "Gather everybody." We sang. He did the thing where you take a single breath, like you've rehearsed with the wind, and blew out all 10 candles in one go. Frosting smudged his lip. I clapped like a seal, heart sore and flooded. I stepped into the kitchen to rinse the knife and breathe where nobody could see my face rearrange. The chat bubble blinked again, 3 dots like a heartbeat that couldn't decide. A new message from Courtney. "We'll catch the next one. Today's insane." Then my lock screen flashed a photo from her story. Brunch mimosas. The caption, "Self-care Sunday on a Saturday with my people." In the corner, my mother in sunglasses, a flute lifted. A tattooed arm, Nate's, draped across the backs of chairs like a casual promise. I stood with a wet knife in my hand, a cake behind me, and a 10-year-old in the yard who still believed adults spoke the same language as their hearts. The house smelled like sugar and dish soap. Someone outside yelled, "Go!" and a cheer went up. I wiped my hands on a towel and went back to pass out plates. I didn't say one word about the empty chairs, not one. When the last kid left, the sun already leaning toward the fence, Leo and I sat on the rug and built the spaceship he'd unwrapped. He didn't ask about Grandma or Aunt Courtney or Uncle Nate. Maybe he didn't want to. Maybe he already knew where people prioritize themselves on Saturdays. After he fell asleep on the couch, slice of pizza balanced like a tiny king's scepter, my phone pinged again. A voice note from my mother. "Don't make a big deal, Kara. He's 10. He'll barely remember." I stared at the ceiling until the paint blurred into an ocean, then to the list that keeps my house and head from floating away. I started stacking plates, scraping frosting into the trash, folding the banner into a shoebox with the leftover candles. I put everything where it belonged. That's what I do. I used to laugh when people called me the fixer. It sounded heroic. Then, somehow, it became a job I didn't apply for. When Dad left when I was 21, Mom handed me a roll in the driveway. "You're the adult now, not a pep talk, an assignment." Courtney's first studio website? I built it and paid 6 months of hosting. "You'll get it back when I'm profitable," she said, like profit was weather. Nate's DUI at 25? I sat through court on my PTO. The winter mom had the flu and still tried to cook. I drove her to urgent care and made soup from a recipe she didn't like, just so she could argue about something she would survive. The group chat read like a travel blog whenever I checked it from a thrift store aisle or my car in the dentist's parking lot, selling my old guitar to cover a bill. Courtney's soft life posts, Nate's grind set selfies with leased cars he wore like watches. When I asked Mom about a weekly dinner, just us, nothing fancy, she told me her calendar was packed, but next month, which never came. Payday, though, happened on schedule with a chorus of quick favor, emergency, don't tell anyone I asked. I promised myself the day Leo was born that my child would never sit in a plastic chair, wondering if his people cared. He would have cake even when money was tight. He would have apologies when grown-ups messed up. He would have adults who tried. Childcare is a second rent, health insurance a third of my income, and yet I have learned to stretch a week with a spreadsheet and a stubborn heart. I once scrubbed thrift store cleats with a toothbrush until they looked new. Meanwhile, my family organized their lives around memories are forever when the bill came to me. Sometime after 10, Marcus texted. Marcus is my boyfriend, newer than habit, but old enough to have a drawer at my place with precisely folded running shirts. How'd the party go? Need help cleaning up? He'd been out of town. Otherwise, he would have been on grill duty, ready with his dorky jokes that make Leo laugh like a car starting on a cold morning. I typed, good. Kids had fun, and stared at the words. Then, family didn't make it. He called. I didn't answer. Not because I didn't want to hear his voice, but because if I spoke, everything inside my chest might skid loose and break something I still needed. The phone buzzed once more. Courtney again, a breezy, we'll catch the next one, like birthdays fell weekly. I flipped the phone face down. The fridge hummed. The house settled. A shape inside me clicked from liquid to solid. Not fire anger, ice. Clear, reflective, exact. I walked to the front door and touched the brass key in the bowl. Mom had a copy. Courtney, too. She'd borrowed it last month and forgot to return it. I hadn't noticed how my boundaries were made from the same soft metal. I imagined the key turning whenever they wanted, fridges opened, favors assumed, my living room converted into an ATM with good lighting. From the couch, Leo snored lightly, a kid sound that makes motherhood feel like standing between a fragile world and the wind. I knelt, tugged a blanket over him, and tucked the corner under his chin like a pledge. In the hall mirror, my face looked like someone I'd heard rumors about. Steady, tired, done. When the midnight quiet finally arrived, I opened my laptop and split my screen. On the left, the photo of Courtney's mimosas, Mom's sunglasses catching light. On the right, the picture I'd taken of the backyard, the banner, still taped to the fence, empty chairs, neat as excuses. I made 2 columns on a sheet of paper. What I do, what they demand. Under what I do, soccer fees, mine. Nate's court filing fee, mine. Website hosting, mine. Cake, mine. Under what they demand, $2,100 per person. Deposit by Friday. Be an adult. Don't be dramatic. I clicked my pen. The line I drew between the columns looked like a road out. I didn't know all the turns yet, only that I was done treating love like a bill I pay to qualify for the next ask. Before I shut the laptop, I typed a note to myself at the top of the page in bold. No more paying for proximity. Then I turned off the lights, slid the bolt, and listened to the quick, decisive click of a future I could actually afford. The first message landed 2 mornings later, when the kitchen still smelled faintly of cake frosting and lemon cleaner. My phone pinged from the counter while I was packing Leo's lunch. The subject line on the family group chat was impossible to miss. Very important RSVP by Wednesday. For a half second, I thought maybe, just maybe, it was a belated attempt at apology. Some acknowledgement of Saturday. Instead, when I opened it, my breath caught. It was an invitation. Not for Leo, not for me. For my niece's sweet 16. A PDF glittered at the bottom. Cursive fonts. Orchid borders. Formal attire required. Then Mom's message. It's $2,100 per person. Venmo me. We'll need Kara to cover Grandma's spot. She's on a fixed income. I stared so long that Leo tugged my sleeve. Mom, you forgot my juice box. I added it to his lunch bag automatically, but the number, $2,100 kept flashing behind my eyes like a siren. It wasn't the amount, not really. It was the expectation, the way my name always got stapled to everyone else's comfort. By the time I dropped Leo off at school, 2 more replies had appeared. Courtney, we're all in. We can't do less than premium. Nate, is there an open bar? If yes, totally worth it. Kara can spot me and Jess. Right, sis? My stomach tightened. The group chat felt like a stage play I hadn't auditioned for. I typed no 3 times, erased it every time. The problem with my family was that words never weighed enough. You had to tie them to something heavy before they noticed. That evening, while pasta boiled and Leo hummed at the table over his homework, another message blinked onto the screen. Mom again. I talked to the venue. They need the deposit by Friday. I told them you'd handle it since you're the most organized. It hit like an invoice disguised as affection. I set the phone down beside the sink, watched pasta bubbles rise and pop, and felt something cold settle beneath my ribs. Not rage, clarity. When Marcus came by later, he noticed immediately. You've got that face again, he said, leaning in the doorway with 2 paper cups of coffee. Spreadsheet face. What's wrong? I showed him the messages. He scrolled once, then again, eyebrows climbing. Wait, they already listed your name as a sponsor? I nodded. Without asking. Courtney must have done it. There's a page at the end of the PDF. Gold patrons in honor of family. My name's printed there in fancy script. He handed the phone back carefully, like it might burn him. That's fraud, Kara. I know. And you're, what? Just supposed to pay because they decided you would? That's how it always goes. He studied me for a moment. Maybe it shouldn't anymore. The words lodged somewhere between my throat and my chest. I wanted to tell him that boundaries in my family were made of wet sand. The moment I drew one, someone's wave of guilt washed it away. He reached across the counter, covered my hand. You don't owe them access to your piece just because they share your last name. That sentence landed harder than any bill ever had. After he left, I opened my laptop. The screen still held the 2 columns from Saturday night. What I do, what they demand. I added a third one this time. What it costs. Soccer fees. Mine. $120. Court filing fee for Nate. Mine. $280. Website hosting. Mine. $90. Cake. Mine. $45. Grandma's fixed income ticket. $2,100. Emotional debt. Too much to total. I stared until the numbers blurred. The truth was simple but brutal. Every dollar I gave them bought me nothing but silence when I needed kindness. The next day at work, while troubleshooting a client's crashed system, I kept replaying the way Mom said, "You're the most organized," like she'd dressed exploitation up as a compliment. During lunch break, I checked the family chat again. New messages stacked like receipts. Courtney. Kara, can you coordinate the group gift? You're good with logistics. Nate. Yo, you got Zelle? Mom. Sweetheart, just pay the deposit and I'll settle later. She never did. She never would. I opened the attached PDF one more time, and that's when I saw it. Page 5, bottom right corner, my LinkedIn photo, cropped and polished, sitting under the title, Primary Family Sponsor. I felt my pulse in my teeth. That evening, Leo worked quietly on his math worksheet while I pulled a blank sheet of paper toward me. On one side, I wrote what they think I'll do. On the other, what I will do. Under what they think I'll do, pay for the party. Stay quiet. Keep forgiving. Under what I will do, say no. Lock the doors. Keep receipts. As the pen pressed into the page, I realized it wasn't anger moving my hand. It was resolve. The kind that builds quietly, one small betrayal at a time. I looked up at Leo, pencil tapping his paper, hair falling into his eyes. Someday he'd ask about this moment, and I'd have to explain why love without respect isn't love, it's leverage. That night, I drafted an email to the event venue, still unsent, still trembling at the edges of my courage. In the subject line, I typed, regarding unauthorized sponsorship listing. Then I saved it as a draft, shut the laptop, and turned off the light. Somewhere inside me, a new gear clicked into place. The machine that used to run on guilt had finally stalled, and I wasn't planning to restart it. By Thursday afternoon, the chat had become a performance. Courtney posting photos of floral samples for the Sweet 16, Mom reacting with heart emojis, Nate joking about open bars. My name was sprinkled through the conversation like seasoning. Kara will handle it. Kara's always reliable. Reliable. That word felt like a chain link now. I stared at my laptop screen during lunch, the cursor blinking over my unsent email to the venue. One deep breath later, I hit send. Subject: unauthorized sponsorship listing. Immediate removal request. Attached: screenshots, timestamps, receipts. Proof that my donation existed only in someone else's imagination. The message whooshed out of my outbox, small and invisible, but heavy with freedom. That night, as Leo played on the floor with his Lego spaceship, I opened my notes app and started typing something I'd avoided all week, a message to my family group chat. I waited until their favorite hour, 1:17 p.m. Pacific, that golden time when they always flooded the thread with selfies and iced coffee boomerangs. I typed slowly, every word deliberate. This was Leo's birthday party. You said you'd come. Attached: a photo of my backyard, the banner still taped to the fence, folding chairs still empty, sunlight spilling across uneaten cake. It took less than a minute for the replies to start. Courtney: why air this here? Mom: don't guilt us. Nate: sis, don't be a martyr. I let their words hang there, then sent the next message, screenshots of their promises. We'll be there, wouldn't miss it. Then, just below that, their brunch photo with champagne and laughter. A pause, then Mom again. Enough, focus on the sweet 16. Deposit due Friday. Be an adult. I read it twice and smiled, a small bitter smile that tasted like release. I typed back, I am an adult, I'm Leo's mom. Courtney shot back almost instantly. Don't make everything about your kid. That one landed hard. My thumb hovered. Then I replied calmly, you skipped your nephew's birthday. A week later, you billed me $200 for a cousin's party. You used my name as sponsor without asking. You told the venue I'd pay. Here's my answer. One word, no. Before anyone could respond, I opened my Venmo, sent Mom $1, and added the note, congratulations. Then I put my phone face down. The next morning, I drove straight to the hardware store after dropping Leo off at school. The automatic doors sighed open like they knew I'd finally arrived where I should have been years ago. Lock change? The clerk asked. Yeah, I said, something solid, quiet. By noon, the new deadbolt was installed, a smooth silver circle that clicked with satisfying precision. The sound wasn't loud, but it carried weight, like a sentence finally ending with a period instead of a question mark. I stood in the doorway, hand on the cool metal, and exhaled. For the first time in a long time, my home felt like mine. Later that day, I told Marcus what I'd done. He grinned, slow and proud. Good. About time. Part of me feels guilty, I admitted. It's still my family. He shrugged. You can love people from behind a locked door. Boundaries don't mean exile, they mean safety. His words stayed with me long after he left. By Friday evening, silence filled the chat. An unnatural hush, the kind that comes before a storm. Then, finally, a message from Mom. You'll regret this, Kara. Family doesn't lock family out. I didn't respond. Instead, I opened the email from the event venue. We've received your documentation. Your name and photo have been removed from all promotional materials. We apologize for the oversight. I exhaled so deeply it startled me. I printed that email and placed it in a new folder labeled Receipts/Boundaries, just like Marcus had suggested. One for every time I chose peace over pressure. Leo peeked over my shoulder. What's that folder for? For keeping track of grown-up choices, I said. He nodded solemnly. Like when you pay bills? Kind of, I smiled. Except this time, I'm saving instead of paying. That night, the sky over our street turned violet. I tucked Leo into bed, then stood in the hallway, staring at the faint line of light beneath his door. I realized something strange. For the first time in years, I wasn't waiting for my phone to buzz. I wasn't bracing for the next emergency. The house was quiet, and the quiet didn't scare me. It soothed me. When I finally turned off the lights, I whispered to no one in particular, no more keys, no more open doors for people who only come to take. The next morning, my phone stayed silent. No Mom, no Courtney, no Nate. Just Leo's laughter spilling from the kitchen as he made cereal and sang to himself. And in that soft domestic noise, I found something I hadn't heard in a long time, peace disguised as ordinary life. It happened 2 days later, on a quiet Sunday morning that smelled like pancakes and rain. Leo was stacking syrup towers on his plate when the doorbell rang. Not a neighbor's casual press. A firm, practiced knock. Through the window, I saw 2 uniformed officers standing on my porch. My stomach dropped. Stay here, honey, I told Leo softly. When I opened the door, the taller officer gave me a polite smile that didn't reach his eyes. Ma'am, are you Kara Nolan? Yes. Got a welfare check request. The words hit like static. I'm sorry, what? Your family called in some concerns. Said you've been acting erratic, possibly withholding property, and there's a minor in the home. My mind went completely still. I could almost hear the hum of the refrigerator in the next room. I stepped aside. You're welcome to come in. They entered, scanning the small living room where Leo sat cross-legged with his cereal bowl, still wearing dinosaur pajamas. The shorter officer crouched a little. Hey, buddy, everything okay? Leo nodded, spoon midair. Mom's making pancakes. I gestured to the kitchen. There's batter. You can smell it. He smiled faintly. I can. 10 minutes later, we were all sitting at the table. My hands stayed open on the wood. No trembling, no raised voice. Just the kind of calm you only get when shock has burned everything else away. I explained. The missed birthday. The $2,100 invoice. The sponsorship I never agreed to. The locks I changed because family doesn't mean free access. When I finished, the taller officer let out a slow whistle. Let me guess. They didn't like you saying no. Apparently not, I said. He shook his head. We see this a lot. Families get used to free labor, free money, easy access. When you change the terms, they panic. The shorter one nodded. And they call us. They did a quick sweep, routine questions, visual check of the house. Everything in order. Bills stacked neatly, toys in bins, refrigerator humming, butter knives but no weapons, laughter from the TV in the next room. When the taller officer spotted the folder on my counter, he read the label and chuckled softly. Receipts and boundaries. Good name. Helps me remember what's mine, I said. Keep it, he advised. And if they show up, don't engage. Call us instead. I thanked them both, walked them out to the porch, and watched their cruiser pull away down the slick gray street. The rain had lightened to a drizzle. For a moment, I just stood there, breathing in the smell of wet pavement and freedom. Inside, Leo looked up from the couch. Were those police? Yeah, I said gently. Grandma called them because she's confused, but it's all okay. He blinked. Are we in trouble? Not even close. He thought about that, then went back to his cartoon. Kids are merciful that way. They don't hold on to storms once the sky clears. That afternoon, I checked my email. A new message sat in my inbox from the event venue manager. Ms. Nolan, confirming your name and image have been fully removed from our materials. We apologize for the misunderstanding. Your family attempted to reinstate your sponsorship this morning, but we declined per your prior notice. I read it twice, pulse slowing, a grin tugging at my lips. They'd tried to put me back on the hook, and failed. For the first time in a long time, I felt the power shift, and it didn't require yelling or revenge, just proof and peace. Later that evening, while Leo built towers and I folded laundry, my phone buzzed again. A text from Aunt Nora. They're furious, but for what it's worth, Kara, you did the right thing. I typed back, I didn't do anything. I stopped doing things. A pause. Then her reply came through. Sometimes that's the hardest thing of all. I stared at the message until my reflection dimmed on the screen. She was right. Around 9 p.m., Marcus stopped by, hair damp from the rain, sleeves pushed up. How bad? He asked quietly. They called the cops, I said, laughing under my breath. Said I was unstable. He froze. You're kidding. I wish. He took a slow breath, then stepped closer, resting his hand on my shoulder. Kara, that's not normal. You know that, right? I do now. His jaw clenched. You want me to talk to them? No, talking's what they want. Silence unnerves them more. He looked at me with something like admiration. You've changed. Maybe I finally grew up, I said softly. Or maybe I just stopped apologizing for doing it. After he left, I opened my folder again, slid in a new printed email, the venue confirmation. Then, almost without thinking, I wrote a note across the top of the page. When they use fear to open your door, make sure the lock clicks louder than their guilt. I placed the folder back on the shelf beside the cookbooks. It looked oddly at home there, like a recipe for peace I'd finally learned by heart. Then I poured a small glass of wine, stepped onto the porch, and listened to the rain taper off. The street glistened under the lamplight. My reflection in the window looked calm, certain, whole. The next storm, I decided, would have to find another address. The day of the Sweet 16 arrived wrapped in silence. No new texts, no calls, no demands. Even the family chat looked abandoned, a digital room where no one wanted to speak first. Leo and I spent the morning doing laundry and making pancakes shaped like stars. I'd almost forgotten what a weekend without tension felt like. By afternoon, he tugged my sleeve. Can we go somewhere, Mom? Not a store, somewhere fun. Fun, huh? I smiled. Deal. Grab your sneakers. We ended up at the park, the one with the uneven swings and the creaky merry-go-round that still squeaked like childhood was mechanical but endless. The air was warm, the light soft gold. As Leo chased pigeons and laughed, I realized something. While my family was dressing in sequins and rented smiles under chandeliers, we were free. At sunset, Marcus joined us, 2 milkshakes in hand. Chocolate and vanilla, he said, offering the cups like peace offerings. Leo grabbed the chocolate one, eyes bright. Thanks, Marcus. We sat on a park bench, watching him run through the grass, untethered. You seem lighter, Marcus said quietly. I am, I admitted. I didn't realize how heavy their noise had gotten until it stopped. He took a sip of his milkshake, watching the sky fade pink. You know, they'll try again. People like that always test new walls. I know. Are you ready for that? I looked at Leo. I'm ready for him. That's all that matters. At 9:42 p.m., my phone buzzed with a message from Aunt Nora. I hesitated, then opened it. You missed nothing. Your mom and Courtney fought with the vendors. The lights cut out during the cake reveal. Nate was drunk. The bill landed like a grenade. Venue refused to let anyone leave until it was paid. Courtney screamed that you ruined everything. Mom cried in the bathroom. Stay home, you're better off. I stared at the screen until the words blurred. Then I laughed, not out of cruelty, but release. I handed the phone to Marcus. He read it, exhaled. That's poetic justice if I've ever seen it. More like karma with glitter? Leo trotted over, grass stains on his knees, hair wild. Mom, can we watch a movie when we get home? Yeah, kiddo, anything you want. As he ran ahead toward the car, Marcus looked at me sideways. You're not even angry, are you? Anger's loud. I don't need loud anymore. When we got home, Leo fell asleep halfway through The Incredibles, milkshake still in hand. I tucked him in, kissed his forehead, and stood at the edge of his bed. The house was quiet, except for the hum of the fridge and the whisper of the night outside. I sat on the couch with the lights off, letting my thoughts unspool. For years, I'd been the family's currency. Every favor, every quick help, every quiet loan had bought me a little less dignity. Tonight, I'd stopped being their exchange rate. My phone buzzed again. Another message from Aunt Nora. They'll try to blame you. Don't let them. I typed back. They can't. I wasn't even there. Then I powered the phone off and set it face down on the coffee table, the same gesture that had started this entire unraveling. Just before midnight, I stepped out onto the porch. The neighborhood was asleep. Streetlights flickered in rhythmic calm. In the distance, faint fireworks bloomed, probably from the party. Each one burst, beautiful and meaningless, and then disappeared into the dark. Behind me, Leo stirred in his room. I smiled to myself. They were throwing money into the sky, trying to buy joy. We were home, owning peace for free. I closed the door gently, slid the new deadbolt into place, and felt that solid click echo through my chest, like a closing line in a long, unfinished sentence. The week after the Sweet 16 passed quietly, like the air after a storm, everything damp but calm. No calls, no apologies, just absence. At first, that silence felt strange, like missing background noise. Then, day by day, it began to feel like clarity. I filled the spaces they used to occupy with small, solid things. Early walks with Leo before school, coffee on the porch, laughter that didn't require translation. One morning, he looked up from his cereal and said, Mom, Grandma used to call every weekend. Did she forget our number? I paused, measuring the truth. Maybe she needs some time to think about how she talks to people. He chewed thoughtfully. Like a timeout? Exactly like that, I smiled. For grown-ups. He nodded, perfectly satisfied. Kids understand boundaries faster than adults. They live closer to fairness. At work, the new calm followed me. I wasn't checking my phone between tickets, waiting for crises disguised as quick favors. My savings app blinked green for the first time in months. The math of my life had changed. No more family taxes hidden in the name of love. I even started sleeping through the night again. Still, guilt likes to visit uninvited. One evening, it came dressed as nostalgia. I scrolled through old photos, family barbecues, birthdays, blurry group selfies with captions like, My people forever. For a moment, I almost believed the pictures. Then I remembered the cost behind each one, the unpaid loans, the quiet insults, the exhaustion disguised as devotion. I closed the album and whispered, Not anymore. That weekend, Marcus came over with dinner and a grin. You know what I realized? He said. unpacking takeout boxes onto the counter. You stopped talking about fixing things. I frowned. What do you mean? He smiled. Back then, every story started with you fixing someone's problem. Your mom, your brother, your sister. Now it's just you living. I laughed. Guess I finally retired. He leaned against the counter. So, what's next for you, retired fixer? I thought for a moment. Maybe building something new, just smaller, healthier, for me and Leo. He raised his cup. To boundaries. To peace, I replied, clinking mine against his. The following Monday, a letter arrived in the mail. Handwritten, childish handwriting on the envelope. Inside, a folded piece of notebook paper, decorated with crooked hearts and $2 taped inside. In purple crayon, it said, Happy birthday, Leo. Sorry we couldn't come. Love, Grandma. Leo's eyes went wide. She remembered. He held the paper like treasure, grinning. Can we buy ice cream with it? I smiled, throat tightening. Absolutely. We drove to the corner shop that evening. He ordered mint chocolate chip, extra sprinkles. I took vanilla. We sat on the curb. 2 cones, $2, 2 people who'd learned that joy doesn't need approval. Leo licked his cone, face sticky, eyes bright. Mom, he said between bites, we're rich. And he was right. Because that night, I realized the new math of love isn't measured in money or favors or guilt. It's measured in quiet mornings, in laughter without permission, in being able to say no and still sleep peacefully. I'd spent 33 years believing family meant forever, even when it hurt. But now I knew better. Family isn't who you owe, it's who shows up. With cake, with care, or even with 2 crumpled dollars and a crayon apology that actually meant something. As the sun went down, Leo leaned against me, sticky fingers wrapping around mine. And for the first time, I didn't feel like the fixer. I felt free.